My mother cut my pay in half. She didn't know I was about to inherit everything. "You're making too much money for someone your age," my mother said, sliding the revised contract across her mahogany desk toward me. "I'm cutting your salary from $180,000 to $90,000, effective immediately." I stared at the papers, my hands trembling slightly as I picked them up. At 28, I'd been working as the Chief Technology Officer of Henderson Industries for 3 years, a position I'd earned through sleepless nights, innovative solutions, and turning our failing tech division into the company's most profitable sector. The woman sitting across from me wasn't just my boss, she was Margaret Henderson, CEO of the family empire, and unfortunately, my mother. "This is insane, Mom," I said, forgetting the professional boundaries she insisted on during business hours. "I've increased our tech revenue by 340% in the past year alone. The Johnson account I landed last month is worth $12 million. Her cold blue eyes narrowed behind her designer glasses. "That's Mrs. Henderson during business hours, David. And I don't care what you've accomplished. You're getting too comfortable, too entitled. This pay cut will teach you humility." What she didn't know, what nobody except my grandfather's lawyer knew, was that in exactly 6 months, on my 29th birthday, I would inherit everything. Not just a portion of the Henderson fortune, not just a stake in the company, but the entire empire worth $2.3 billion. My grandfather, Harold Henderson, had set up his will very specifically before his death 5 years ago, stipulating that I would receive everything when I turned 29, provided I had proven myself capable of running the business. I'd spent the last 5 years doing exactly that, while my mother systematically tried to undermine me at every turn. "Sign it," she demanded, tapping her manicured nails on the desk. "Or find another job." I looked at her, really looked at her. Margaret Henderson was 53 years old, perfectly coiffed, and had been running the company since my grandfather's death. What she lacked in business acumen, she made up for in ruthless determination and a complete inability to see anyone else's value, including her own son's. She'd inherited the CEO position not because she was qualified, but because grandfather's will had specified she would run things until my 29th birthday. She had no idea that her reign was about to end. "Fine," I said, signing the contract with more force than necessary. "But I want this decision documented. I want it in writing that you're cutting the salary of your highest performing executive by 50% for no performance-related reason." She smiled that cold smile I'd grown to hate. "Already done. HR has been informed that you've been overpaid for years and this is a market correction." I stood up, straightening my tie. "We'll see about that." As I walked out of her corner office, past the portraits of Henderson family patriarchs that lined the hallway, I pulled out my phone and called the one person who knew the truth. "Robert? It's David. She just did it. Cut my pay in half." Robert Thornfield had been my grandfather's attorney for 30 years and was now the executor of his estate. At 67, he was one of the few people who understood the full scope of what was about to happen. "Are you certain you want to go through with this?" His gravelly voice came through the phone. "You could reveal the inheritance terms now. Stop this before it goes further." "No," I said, stepping into the elevator. Grandfather was very specific. He wanted me to prove I could handle adversity. 6 months, Robert. I can handle 6 months. Your mother has no idea what's coming, does she? None whatsoever. What I hadn't told Robert was that I'd been preparing for this day for months. I'd been documenting every poor decision my mother made, every time she passed over qualified candidates for positions because she felt threatened, every instance where she prioritized her ego over company profits. I had a file 3 inches thick sitting in my apartment safe. The next morning, I arrived at work to find my assistant, Jessica, looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Henderson," she said quietly, "your mother, Mrs. Henderson, has asked me to start reporting your daily activities to her. She wants to know who you meet with, what projects you're working on, how long your lunch breaks are." Jessica Martinez was 26, had been working as my assistant for 2 years, and was one of the most competent people in the building. She'd started as a receptionist and I'd personally recommended her for promotion twice. She was also pursuing her MBA at night while working full-time. "Jess, I need you to do something for me," I said, closing my office door. "Keep those reports she wants, but make copies of everything. Every request she makes, every instruction about monitoring me, every communication. Can you do that?" She nodded. "This isn't right, what she's doing to you. Everyone knows you're the reason our division is succeeding." Over the next few weeks, my mother's behavior became increasingly erratic. She started scheduling meetings during times when I had important client calls. She reassigned 3 of my key projects to other departments without consulting me. Most importantly, she began making decisions about the tech division without my input, decisions that started costing the company money almost immediately. The first major disaster happened in month 2 of my pay cut. My mother had decided to implement a new software system across all our manufacturing plants. She'd chosen the cheapest option without understanding the technical requirements. When I tried to explain why their proposed system wouldn't work with our existing infrastructure, she dismissed my concerns. "You're not the only person who understands technology, David," she said during a board meeting. "Perhaps your reduced salary has affected your confidence." 2 weeks later, the system failed spectacularly. 3 of our plants went offline for 6 days, costing the company approximately $4.2 million in lost productivity and delayed shipments. The board was not pleased. Marcus Webb, our longest-serving board member and my grandfather's old friend, pulled me aside after the meeting. "David, I don't know what's going on between you and your mother, but these technology decisions need your oversight." The old man specifically told me to keep an eye on things. Marcus was 71 and had been on the Henderson Industries board for 23 years. He said there would come a time when changes would need to be made. I was careful with my response. "I appreciate your confidence, Marcus. I think grandfather would want what's best for the company." He nodded knowingly. Yes, I believe he would. By month 3, my mother had escalated her campaign against me. She hired an outside consultant, Thomas Bradley from Corporate Restructuring Solutions, to evaluate the efficiency of our tech division. Bradley was a hatchet man, known for coming into companies and finding reasons to fire people. What my mother didn't realize was that Bradley's firm had tried to poach me 6 months earlier, offering me a position as their chief technology advisor for $250,000 a year. I'd turned them down, but Bradley and I had developed a professional relationship. This is awkward, Bradley told me during our first meeting. Your mother wants me to find grounds to terminate you. And what have you found? I asked. He laughed. That you're probably the most valuable employee this company has. Your division's profit margins are incredible. You've streamlined operations, improved client satisfaction ratings by 67%, and somehow managed to cut costs while increasing output. If anything, you're criminally underpaid. Will you tell her that? I'll tell her the truth. What she does with it is her choice. Bradley's report was delivered in month 4. He recommended not only keeping me but giving me expanded authority over all technology-related decisions and restoring my original salary immediately. My mother's response was to fire Bradley and bury the report. But she'd made a crucial mistake. Bradley was a gossip, and within days, word had spread throughout the industry that Margaret Henderson was so threatened by her own son that she'd hired someone to find reasons to fire him, then fired the consultant when he recommended the opposite. This was when I received the call that changed everything. David? This is Patricia Lawson from Lawson Enterprises. I nearly dropped the phone. Lawson Enterprises was our biggest competitor, a $1.8 billion technology and manufacturing conglomerate. Patricia Lawson was the founder and CEO, a brilliant businesswoman who built her empire from nothing over 30 years. Ms. Lawson, this is unexpected. I'm calling with a job offer. I want you to come work for me as Executive Vice President of Technology and Innovation. The salary is $350,000 plus bonuses, full benefits, and equity options. You'd be reporting directly to me. I was quiet for a moment. That's a very generous offer. Tom Bradley told me what's happening over there. Your mother is an idiot if she doesn't recognize your value. I do. Can I have some time to think about it? Of course. But David? The offer expires in 60 days. After that, I'll assume you're committed to staying with Henderson Industries. 60 days. That would take me to exactly 2 weeks before my 29th birthday. I thanked her and hung up, then immediately called Robert. Patricia Lawson offered me a job, I told him. Interesting timing. Robert, I need to know something. What exactly happens if I take another job before my birthday? There was a long pause. The inheritance terms are very specific, David. You must be employed by Henderson Industries and in good standing on your 29th birthday. If you leave, even if you return later, the inheritance goes to your mother permanently. That night, I sat in my apartment going over my options. I could take the Lawson job and earn $350,000 a year working for someone who respected my abilities. Or I could endure 2 more months of my mother's abuse, stick it out until my birthday, and inherit everything. The decision became easier when I arrived at work the next day to find security waiting at my office. Mr. Henderson, said James Murphy, head of security, your mother has asked me to escort you to HR. In the HR office, I found my mother sitting next to Helen Rodriguez, our HR director. Helen looked deeply uncomfortable. David, my mother began, it's come to my attention that you've been having unauthorized contact with competitors. Patricia Lawson specifically. How is that your business? I asked. Everything that happens in this company is my business. You signed a non-compete agreement. I looked at Helen. Is receiving a job offer a violation of my non-compete? Helen shook her head. No, it's not. The non-compete only applies if you actually take a position with a competitor and share proprietary information. My mother's face reddened. Fine. Then we're placing you on administrative leave pending a full investigation of your recent performance and conduct. You can't do that, I said. I haven't violated any company policies. I can do whatever I want. I'm the CEO. Helen finally spoke up. Mrs. Henderson, I have to advise against this. We have no grounds for administrative leave. This could expose the company to legal action. Are you questioning my authority, Helen? I'm protecting the company from potential lawsuits. That's when my mother made her biggest mistake. Helen, you're fired. Security will escort you out immediately. David, you're suspended without pay for 2 weeks while we investigate your conduct. I watched Helen's face go pale. She'd worked for Henderson Industries for 8 years, had a mortgage, 2 kids in college, and had done nothing wrong except try to protect the company from my mother's vindictive decisions. This is illegal, Helen said quietly. Sue me, my mother replied. After security escorted Helen out, I turned to my mother. You've just opened this company to a massive wrongful termination lawsuit. Helen documented everything. Every conversation, every policy you've ignored, every illegal decision. Let her try to prove it. I smiled. She won't have to. I've been documenting everything too. For the first time, my mother looked uncertain. What do you mean? I mean I have records of every decision you've made regarding me. The pay cut without cause, the harassment, the monitoring, the attempted character assassination. I also have Bradley's report recommending you restore my salary and give me expanded authority. And now I have witnesses to you firing an HR director for trying to prevent you from making illegal decisions. I stood up. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I spent the time preparing for what was coming. I met with Robert 3 times to go over every detail of the inheritance transfer. I organized all my documentation of my mother's behavior. Most importantly, I started reaching out to key employees who I knew were unhappy with my mother's management. Jessica called me on day 10 of my suspension. David, you need to know what's happening here. Your mother hired her friend's son to replace Helen in HR. Danny Morrison, he's 25 and just graduated college. No HR experience. That's not surprising. It gets worse. She's been telling everyone that you're probably not coming back. She's already started interviewing for your replacement. Who's she interviewing? External candidates only. She said she doesn't trust anyone currently working here. This was perfect. My mother was systematically alienating the entire workforce while I was gone. I'd been getting calls and texts from employees asking what was really happening and whether I was okay. On day 12 of my suspension, Marcus Webb called me. David, I need to see you. Can you meet me for lunch? We met at Romano's, a quiet Italian restaurant downtown where we could talk privately. The board is concerned, Marcus said after we'd ordered. Your mother's behavior has become increasingly erratic. The Helen Rodriguez firing was the last straw. Did you know Helen's husband is an employment attorney? I figured she'd find good representation. She's not just suing for wrongful termination. She's filing a complaint with the Department of Labor alleging systematic harassment and illegal employment practices. She's using you as a key example. I nodded. She should. Marcus studied my face. David, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Your grandfather told me, before he died, that there were provisions in his will that I should be prepared for. He said there might come a time when the leadership of this company would need to change. Do you know what he meant? I looked at this man who'd been like a second grandfather to me growing up. Harold Henderson had trusted Marcus completely, and I decided to trust him too. Marcus, in 6 days, on my 29th birthday, I inherit everything. Not just a portion, everything. The company, all the assets, the entire estate. My mother's position as CEO ends the moment I turn 29. His eyes widened. She doesn't know. She has no idea. My God. Harold always was a strategic thinker. He wanted you to prove yourself first, didn't he? He wanted me to learn how to handle adversity and bad management. I think I've learned that lesson. Marcus laughed. I think you have too. The board has been discussing calling for a vote of no confidence in your mother. Should we hold off? Give me 1 week after my birthday. If I can't fix things by then, the board should do what it thinks is right. When I returned from suspension, the office felt different. My mother had clearly been using my absence to poison opinion against me, but it seemed to have backfired. Instead of turning people against me, she'd reminded them how much they relied on my work and leadership. Jake Morrison from accounting stopped by my office my first day back. David, I don't know what's going on between you and your mom, but I wanted you to know that the whole accounting department is behind you. We've seen what you've accomplished, and we've seen what happens when you're not here. What do you mean? The Kellerman project went completely off the rails while you were gone. She tried to have Danny Morrison, Helen's replacement, manage the technical aspects. Kid doesn't know a server from a sandwich. We're probably going to lose the client. The Kellerman project was worth $8.5 million annually. Losing them would be devastating to our quarterly numbers. Over the next few days, I learned the full scope of the damage. 3 major clients had expressed concerns about project delays. 2 key employees from my department had given notice, citing lack of leadership stability. The manufacturing system that had failed earlier was still having intermittent problems because my mother had refused to authorize the fixes I'd recommended. But I endured it all, because I knew that in 3 days, everything would change. On my 28th birthday, exactly 1 year earlier, my grandfather's attorney had given me a sealed envelope with instructions not to open it until the day before my 29th birthday. That envelope was sitting on my kitchen counter as I ate breakfast on March 14th. Inside was a letter in my grandfather's handwriting. David. Asterisk, if you're reading this, then tomorrow you become the sole owner of everything I've built. I hope this past year has taught you what I intended it to teach you. Asterisk. Asterisk, leadership isn't about having authority, it's about earning respect. It's not about being the smartest person in the room, it's about surrounding yourself with smart people and listening to them. Most importantly,